You can change, that's okay. Just want to, just
Got
need the
got
information.
entirely too dependent on the calculator.
I understand. And I can't even operate that.
Sure.
46 too.
Yes.
Okay, now this is 2006, so that's 7. So why don't you run 7 more years at that annual depreciation amount?
Well, another 7 years would be the same amount, would be $284,000.
Which exceeds 146. So the asset has been used up by the year 2006, based on, if in fact they're depreciating it at that rate.
Yes, sir.
And it would be logical to assume, because when they reported that, they were telling the truth, because that's out of the tax return.
Yes, sir. I'm just figuring on.
And we assumed that they didn't contest this figure at the appraisal district that we're aware of, based on the record that we saw, so that would be accurate, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so, obviously, the math is whatever the math is, and so there had to be some depreciation.
Yes, sir.
Based on a reasonable, I guess, generally accepted accounting principles, is it safe to assume that that is, in fact, a depreciable amount?
Yes, I mean, that is,
Can we have the record what the 46 too, how I calculated that? I assume it's the 284,000.
284,000 divided by 7.
If it's 92 through 99, why is it not 8 years inclusive? Why are we doing 7 years? You did 92 through 99.
Well, you want to do
inclusive.
that calculation?
Let's do it, yeah.
Late.
Should be about 35.
$35,500 would be 8 years.
So, 35.5, if you took that and extended it from 99 and did what, 6 years? Assuming, let's use the date of March of 1999, okay? Now let's give them the benefit of the doubt. Let's do this. Instead of doing 6 years, do 5 years. Because there may be a difference in the early part of the year and the later part of the year, and that way we'll give them a year free ride, for the purpose of calculating.
That'd be $177,500.
Then we subtract 146, this is new math, subtract 177 from 146. What does that leave you with, a negative amount?
It would have consumed it.
Now, for the benefit of the commission, or the Board of Adjustment, explain to them, and I don't mean to insult them, but explain what you understand depreciation to represent and why companies do that.
Depreciation is the accounting principle to allow a business to recover the cost of its capital assets over a given period of time. The principle is, in accounting, is for all expenses, is to match income against the revenue that it generates. For capital asset, those assets are normally very expensive. As for instance, the building would cost $430,000. You're not going to generate revenue in 1 year to be able to offset that cost. So what you do is you spread that cost out over the useful life of the asset. And that's what depreciation is for.
Okay, so if you used Dallas Crown's figures, the appraisal district's figures, did the math, would, as of today, that asset, would have Waldo recovered the usable value of the asset, which is known as the structure itself?
based on that computation there, yes, sir.
Now, there's another way you could do this as well, you know, taking, and generally accepted accounting principles are that you would view an asset such as a factory might have a usable life anywhere from 10 to 50 years, correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, if we take 1995 value, or an 85, and we show it at $100,000, and that was 21 years ago. So it's within the range of what a reasonable accepted accounting principle would be to recoup the value of that quote asset.
Yes.
Okay. So, and they have produced, they've in either Dallas Crown or Waldo, or the parent company, have produced no records which would indicate that there's been any improvements in the structure itself.
No.
And this is at least some evidence, if you will, of an arm's length transaction, because there's nothing to indicate otherwise, correct?
That's correct.
Just like the 430. So you could amortize that number 21 years into the future if you did so based on the same rate, the usable life at 35.5, assuming that that was the rate that was used in order to give them the benefit of the doubt. The usable life of this asset would have been used up long before 1999.
Yes.
And we have no records to indicate, we being the city or you, haven't had the opportunity to see any records which would indicate that there has been any improvements in the structure,
That's
correct?
correct.
So, based on your review, the value of the structure itself would be what today?
The accounting value, based on the way we've got it computed now, is that it's been consumed as recovered.
So it would be zero. Now, that doesn't say it doesn't have value if you were to sell it in the open market.
Absolutely.
But based on amortized, generally accepted accounting principles, its usable value has been recovered. Is that correct? Now let's go to the equipment. Now you have records that you've seen from, I guess, either Waldo or Dallas Crown.
Waldo.
And when I call it equipment, it's everything that's not the building. And giving them the benefit of the doubt, when we say equipment, that's everything that's either personal property or used in the production of their operation, correct? And you included the house. Is there any indication that that extra house was used in the production of, as an office, or used in the production of Dallas Crown's business?
It's my understanding that the house is used for the one of the employees.
Lives there?
Yes.
Caretaker, perhaps? So it has some value there.
Yes.
So you included it, correct? All right, and you took those figures off the 1992 documents that you reviewed, or 94?
Well, the fiscal year return is where it starts with the numbers I have starting. They relate back to some 92 transactions that show up in that schedule.
So do you want to use 1992 or 1994 for the purpose of amortizing those assets?
Well, it really doesn't make any difference, because with the exception of the house and some other additional items, all of the assets that were listed as of 1999, based on what they had set up on their depreciation schedule, would be depreciated out by the end of 2006.
Okay. And as of 99, what was the value, if you could, Mr. Carter, give us the value of 99? And we'll talk about 2006. And go ahead and give us the figure, what the starting figure was, so we've got some base.
Okay. As I said, we started out with a total asset as of 95, $897,000.
Okay, that's building and equipment?
That's everything.
Okay, so 890,000, and we subtracted what out of that?
The 430 for the building, which would leave the 460.
Okay, and by the time we get to 99, what do we have? Based on their record, and their review of it.
The remaining balance as of the end of fiscal year 99 is $597,000.
For everything.
Correct.
So that's,
So if you take,
see, based on what you've done here, give us just the equipment.
just the equipment is,
Mhm. Different types of what I'll call personal property assets.
yes,
With finding balance, so cars may be one thing, heavy equipment may have another. So they all have different lives.
different useful lives, yes.
Did you take that into consideration when you were doing your calculation?
Yes. If you take the building off, I did a while ago, the 430 off of
Mhm.
the remaining balance, which would be 160,000.
So at 99, these assets were at 160. And did you do a calculation basically through January of 2006?
Yes.
As to what the depreciated value of these assets would be?
Yes.
And what is that?
It's the assets were there as of that point, given the asset class and that sort of thing would be depreciated out.
So what we know is, while we're up here, that we have land, we have building, and we have equipment. We have the year 1999, and we have 2006, and I guess we've got, how far back, 1994 or 92 is the base year that we,
92.
now, land doesn't depreciate, does it? It is what it is.
It's, no.
So, we're not gonna talk about land, we're gonna talk about the building. Summarize, so we're back. What we talked about here, so 92 shows 430, correct? Okay, all right, 99 shows 146. And then by the time we get to 2006, based on your testimony, it's used its life off, so it's a zero.
Yes, sir.
And that's basically a 20-year life for that facility, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And then we have the equipment. We start out with 222, we got basically 460. We go to 99, 160, and it is zero. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So there isn't, unless someone has bought more equipment since 1999 or made improvements in the building since 1999 that you have not been afforded an opportunity to look at, there would be no depreciable value in either the building or the equipment.
That's correct.
The commission had any questions? Chairman, you make sure that you don't run off with our citizens. Thank you, Mr. Carter. Mr. Elsner, apparently Mr. Calabria would like the opportunity to question the witness, and we would tender him for that purpose.
Good evening, members of the panel. For the record, my name is Mark Calabria. I believe you all know that I represent Dallas Crown Incorporated, and I have since the beginning of these proceedings have been instituted. I think you've seen this evening, there's been some testimony about some other property owners who have not been represented in this proceeding, and whose names and identity have not been brought to you before this evening. I do not represent Waldo Incorporated. I do not represent Chevadego Incorporated. I do not represent Dallas Crown Acting Company Incorporated. I'm here this evening to bring that to your attention as well, is to ask you, with respect to the report that you've heard here this evening, give Dallas Crown Incorporated an opportunity to come before you and present their version of what it is you're to consider here this evening. This is the first opportunity that we've had to hear Mr. Carter's report. I think there's a number of issues that we could raise with that report, given the proper opportunity to reply. I think also Mr. Carter's report has failed to address a number of issues that the zoning ordinance requires you to look at. And I'm specifically referring to section 9.9, section 8.2. In prescribing said time period, the zoning board of adjustment shall consider the following factors: any costs that are directly attributable to the establishment of the compliance date, including demolition expenses, relocation expenses, termination of lease expenses. I understand his method of accounting, maybe his version, but it sure doesn't take into consideration any of those other areas that you're going to be asked to consider. For that reason, so that we may bring you that information, so that we may also have the opportunity to cross-examine and to present our version of the proceeding. Dallas Crown Incorporated would ask that this meeting be continued and that we be given an opportunity to do that with a reasonable amount of time.
What's the reason for that?
When does the zoning board meet again?
First Tuesday each month.
It's in 2 weeks on the 28th.
At least that's much, if not as much as 3 years.
Members of the board, it makes no difference to me. I'll be here when David will be, or I will be. I'll probably be here the rest of the time, but I'll be here whenever you want me. That's not a problem for me. The interesting thing that I think we need to ferret out on this, though, is if Ms. Cleavy's statements are true, then what does Dallas Crown have any interest in the building or the assets which are to be amortized? And part of the problem is we need to get all that figured out. I don't mind, we need to make it the right decision. We need to have the right information. And during the course of doing some of this financial review, we found out the different corporations, okay? We've been here since September, And no one has stood up and said, hey, you got the wrong guy. Or there's other guys that you need to consider. So I think that to the extent that they could have come forward and said, hey, you know, there's other people that are involved in this besides us, and here they are, and you need to have them here, and they need to be here to do this. I just point that out to the commission. So with that said, I have no problem doing whatever the commission would like to do in that regard, and we'll be back here and whenever you think it's appropriate.
And it also ties into the other issues, but I think most of the members wanted to see the financial records, be able to touch them, feel them, read them, rather than have them give them one copy here tonight and try to make a decision.
And that's fine, we do have, and we will mark those and put all those in, we've got tax returns and other things. If you do in fact want those, we can, I've got them with me. I just didn't think you wanted more information than you needed, but if you want them, we'll give them to you. And we can do it tonight or later, so. However you would like to do that, Mr. Chairman, and members of the board.
Yeah. We'd like to.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Don Fair. I am attorney represent the citizens, coalition of citizens involved in this complaint. I would ask that before the chair calls that particular matter for a vote, if the chair is so inclined, that the chair entertain the remaining testimony for tonight and any exhibits that the chair might need, that the board itself might need to consider during those deliberations that it might take after this, and therefore be able to get everything out tonight that needs to be gotten out before adjourning, if it's so inclined to do so. And I would, of course, lodge the same protest as counsel for the board. We've all been here numerous hours, had more than adequate opportunity to say, wait a minute, something's wrong here. But more importantly, I point out to the board, as the testimony has revealed, they still haven't complied with all the document requests. Basically, what they're asking for is do me a favor, cut me some slack, because I have refused to comply. You don't give somebody extra ground when they refuse to comply with the subpoena or the request of this board, and then let them come back and say, well, now we want to look at something else. How long are they going to drag y'all in and out of here? This has gotten out of hand. But I would ask that we be able to present the rest of our information before you adjourn.
I would respectfully disagree with the accusations that made. Your subpoena was directed to Dallas Crown Incorporated. The records of Waldo Corporation are records of Waldo Corporation. Waldo, as it's been pointed out to you this evening, is the record title over the property. They're on the tax rolls here. It would have been very easy if you wish to have that information or subpoena those records. You could have directed it to the proper entity.
Is there additional paperwork or information Mr. Carter wants?
Well, it was represented by Mr. Clark that he was gonna produce some of that Friday.
Mr. Clark is not here, is he?
No, he is not.
What's his first name?
It's in the exhibit, I'll have to get it.
Maurice.
Maurice.
All right. If he can identify it, can Mr. Calabria respond to whether that can be produced? If we give him time for them to analyze his testimony and stuff?
I don't know why we couldn't.
I mean,
I don't know that Mr. Calabria knows what Mr. Clark told Mr. Carter.
But Mr. Carter can tell us what documents, if any, he wants to see. Of course, he's testified, so he feels pretty comfortable what he's got so far. Are there some documents you really need for next time?
There is some additional information that I'd like to see. Yes, sir.
Okay, then can you give me a hint about what kind of document or information you'd like to see?
I'll tell you what I've asked for.
Okay.
I've asked for the corporate tax returns of Dallas Crown and Waldo from 1991, 92, 93, 2001 through 2005. 2006 is not yet been filed.
Even if Mr. Calabria can't commit tonight to producing those documents by the next time we give him the 30 days, can we subpoena them?
Yeah.
Then now we know who the players
I'll
are.
probably do that.
Yeah. Is that fair?
Yes, sir. And with respect to my client, I can
Yeah.
speak to the other entities.
But if he wants to see the documents, I think his testimony can be much more forceful. He's got the documents he's asked for.
I've also made a request for the Dallas Crown tax returns for corporate tax returns for 1995 and 1986. Excuse me, 1985 and 1986.
85 and 96?
85 and 86.
86. Is that a problem?
Yes, sir.
It is a problem?
Yes, sir. That corporation is not Dallas Crown Incorporated.
Okay.
That company was Dallas Crown Packing Company.
Well, packing, yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
Is that the same entity, but just a different name now, is that correct?
Separate.
Separate.
Next, additional testimony we'll take to the public here tonight? People that are here, they want to talk? Is that what you're saying now?
Yes, sir.
Why would we not do that?
Yeah, if anybody just get up here and state your name, your address, and just go through.
I'll be the only one speaking anything tonight. Members of the board, as you know, my name is Don Fear. I'm an attorney from Arlington, Texas, and I've been here for each of these hearings to represent the coalition of property owners that was the initial complainants in this cause. Let me start out with saying one of the first things that struck me tonight, and I think is of some importance certainly legally, is the fact that the testimony has revealed that Dallas Crown, by whatever name it wants to call itself this week, operates a slaughterhouse in Kaufman County, Kaufman County, Texas. It is the one against whom the complaints were brought. It is the one that operates on a daily basis, and as the record has shown, it is the operative end of the business, regardless of who owns the assets. It is Dallas Crown that became a non-conforming business. It is Dallas Crown that created the nuisance. It is Dallas Crown that this board found was a nuisance non-conforming and was ordered to shut down. And what's before you now, of course, is the twin. But if Dallas Crown owns no assets, Dallas Crown is not entitled to any time to amortize or depreciate any assets. Dallas Crown as a business can be ordered shut down today because you need not consider those factors. Now, from a legal standpoint, I would say that Waldo Inc. has an investment in that property. It has a lease with Dallas Crown. It wants to play arm's length, let it play arm's length. Let Waldo sue Dallas Crown for destroying the value of its assets. But that's not a concern of this board. Dallas Crown is. Dallas Crown owns nothing, shut them down. Shut them down right now because they can't depreciate anything. They can't amortize anything. They own nothing to do so. They're the ones who've got a license to practice or to operate a slaughterhouse here, and they're the ones you talk about shutting down. So let's talk about who they really are. We're playing a name game here. And it's kind of a fun thing to track because it has changed so much. I have a copy from the corporate records of the Secretary of State on the corporation now known as Dallas Crown Inc. And copy for council. And I have copies for each of the board members. By the way, throughout all these exhibits, I have highlighted the portions that I'll be referring to for convenience of your use. They're not going to read through all of it.
Mr. Chairman, why don't we mark this as consecutively? Can we do that?
Sure. You want to just mark your copy and let them have those copies?
I'm gonna let Cory 17, I believe. That's stuff talking.
Our next one is 17.
17.
Those are our last ones.
Yeah, she's.
So for the record, reference that the commission has received, exhibit number 17, volume 4 of the procedure.
I would ask that the members note the registered agent is shown as Christopher Sonnen, and I'm going to slaughter some of these names, I apologize. The officers and directors are shown as Michael D. Dugalar, Oliver Comiskey, and Manfred Ramalt. And I just ask that you keep that in mind as we go through the rest of the documents. The next document is the Secretary of State records, Texas, for the corporation known as Waldo Inc. That's the other name of the business that apparently actually owns the assets. And that would be 18. That would be 18, copy for the board. Also listed at 2000 Fair Street. And again, the Waldo Inc. registered agents, Christopher Sonnen, officers and directors, Michael D. Dugalar, Oliver Comiskey, and Manfred Ramalt. They're all the same folks. Next document I have is a printout of information obtained from a service in Europe that does about the same thing, gets financial records on European corporations. And